what is a local myth or folk tale that gives you the creeps? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. There is apparently something called a hoop snake that lives by the river. It bites onto its tail and chases after you, rolling like a hula hoop, and I find that quite effed up. Lallorna, shudders. Sinterklaas. He is a Catholic child friend who takes kids back to Spain in a sack if they are naughty. I still have shivers down my spine about Spain because my mother threatened me with Spain to hell and back. A decommissioned offshore lighthouse. Even though the tower is locked and all utilities have long been disconnected, residents viewing it from the shore have witnessed the beacon lighting up randomly late at night 2 to 3 times per year. The structure remains solidly locked, and no boats have been reported in the area when the sporadic illumination occurs. I live in upstate New York in the Adirondacks, and up here there's always a sense of mystery in the air, especially if you go to the more rural parts. There's Bigfoot sightings, strange happenings, like for instance, the tourism guide will tell you that cougars are extinct here. However, there have been many sightings of them. My dad had personally saw a big cat dash across the road while on his way home from work, along with the strange disappearances of one Ted Nugent, who was a pro-hunter and ex-army that just disappeared into thin air on a hunting trip. If you ever heard of missing 411 incidents, this was one of them. It was said that when Ted went missing, the forest was dead silent. Normally in the woods you hear something, birds, mice, etc. Anyway, a few weeks ago, I went out hunting solo. I was sitting against a tree on top of a hill when suddenly the forest went dead quiet. I had a strong sense of being watched at first. I played it off, saying, "Oh, you're just paranoid." But as the sun went down, the feeling got stronger and stronger, until I said, "Okay, I'm just gonna cut this trip short." Was I paranoid? Was it paranormal? I don't know. Wendigos, creepy AF. As a Canadian who dreams of living in rural Quebec, but is currently a city boy, these mother effers out there living their best life as a cannibal. Also, I'm waiting for mice to turn into mini micegos. One of my 3 mice recently passed away. I hope peacefully, or was murdered. My other 2 mice ate her corpse. Never found Hilda's skull. One of my mice is white and was dyed pink after eating Hilda. I'm waiting for my demise at the hand of my little micegos. To sum it up, Wendigo be out there living their best life, stealing my future home, and my mice are probably undergoing the transformation into micegos. Local myth. There's a small playground next to a weird overpass in our city, like 2 swings and a slide. It's so hard to get to, I don't even know why the city put it there. It's not lit for night use except by a single street lamp. If you use the overpass at night, it looks so eerie, and sometimes the wind makes the swings move slowly. In high school, everyone would say a little girl died there, and if you don't hold your breath when going over the overpass, she'll claim your soul. I still hold my breath, and I'm 37. Bloody Mary. Used to try and cover my mirror up in my room and keep the lights on. Parents wouldn't let me. The Warwick crooner. On the corner of Chestnut and Elm, in the backyard of 361 Elm Street, every full moon, on the rusty old swing set, a squat figure swings, vocalizing hymns of yore. Those fools who dare spare a glance are immobilized, forced into observation until his Bluetooth headphones die and he goes in to charge them. After the encounter, his victims are never quite the same. The crooner, he visits them in their dreams, haunts their nightmares. They see him every night as their eyes finally close. Bluetooth? Ever heard of a shin sales or a shade? A Jewish demon that can take different forms and drives people insane if you're lucky enough to get away from it alive. The only way to combat it is by holding onto your thumb, facing it, and saying, "You and I are one." Then the shade will say, "You and I are two." Then you must respond, "You and I are three," and repeat this until 101. All the while it drives you mad. Bigfoot. A lot of cultures all have a tall, hairy wild man legend like the Yeren in China, Yeti in Tibet, Yowie in Australia, etc. and more. It's like a fear of the dark. Humans all over the world all share this fear of a wild ape man, and that universal fear created these myths. Chimpanzees are also terrifying animals, and if any of these creatures were real, I'd imagine they'd look like one but stretched over a 10-foot tall person that could rip you in half like a piece of paper. I live near one of the oldest theaters in my country, and it is insanely haunted. Whispering, floating orbs, disembodied screams, wraiths, evil presences, suicides, all that. My favorite part is that while obviously most of it isn't true, back in the 90s, the theater literally allowed a woman's cremated remains to be hidden behind a wall on the stage because she wanted to be there forever. Not supposedly did that, actually did that. Bunyip. My son told me he saw a creature slither out of the lake when he was 6. A year or so later, he saw the book Gloop the Gloomy Bunyip, and he's convinced that's what he saw. He's 9 now and still petrified of this lake. It's Lake Marma for the record. AFAIK, there's no reports of any other sightings. The elevator that brings you into a different dimension, or whatever it does. You gotta do a lot of stuff that you need to remember, but once you get there, your mind is all jumbled. The only way to get back is doing it in reverse. That or the Midnight Man. I think that's what it's called. The one that involves knocking on your front door while the grandfather clock goes off. The Bath Game. A Japanese urban legend. Hell no, I'm not trying this. I'm scared of bathrooms, especially when trying to summon a demon there. Don't try that. About 15 years ago, they found a dead body in the river by my house. The guy was shot, and it took them like 10 years to figure out who did it, and in the meantime, we'd make up theories and wonder what happened. Turned out my friend's dad did it. We have an area that is called the Indian School, which is exactly what it sounds like, a segregated boarding school for Native Americans back in the 50s and 60s. Lots of stories about abuse toward the kids and even deaths. Anyway, it is said to be haunted and even used by satanic cults after it was shut down. An urban legend of my old school was that the old school building had people living in it before it was a school building, and in one apartment there was a young couple, man and woman. The man left because he had to go to war. In my country, men 18 years and up need to defend their country. The man had died on the battlefield, and the woman hung herself. Even some teachers were telling that story. There was a man's body found in a big shoebox with the arms, leg, and head cut off in 1886 up the street from where I grew up. Neither the victim nor the killer were ever identified. Some ghost hunting show was in town investigating it last summer. Also, College Road Trip filmed some scenes at a local high school while I was in one of the public high schools across town. Everybody had a Martin Lawrence story or two. There's a haunted church in one of the towns, that is pretty famous. A serial killer once hid the body of the girl he murdered and is rumored to have written, "I love little girls" in her blood. The church is still there and is really old, built around 1770. It's surrounded by a graveyard on all sides and is illuminated at night. It looks really creepy.